Hi, my name is Kelly Paine. I had a fusion ACDF. A couple of years ago, I woke up with a crick in my neck, didn't know what was wrong, had some pain, and went to the doctor. The doctor had ordered an MRI, which showed that I had a bulging disc. And from there, I did physical therapy, which helped the situation at that time. This past January, I woke up and it was like the crick in my neck, but I couldn't move. Felt like every time that I did move, that it was like a jolt down my spine, into my shoulders, pain into my arm, and I felt like I couldn't get out of bed. We realized something was wrong at that time, and so I went to the doctor again, and the doctor told me, hey, let's go back to physical therapy. I went ahead and did physical therapy for 6 weeks with no relief. And the physical therapist at that point stated that I needed to go back to the doctor to get a review of what could be going on. They had felt like maybe something was more severe. So I went to the doctor, they ordered an MRI. 2 days later, I got a phone call stating that they wanted to do an immediate referral to go to a neurologist. I went to a neurologist and it wasn't the right fit. I didn't feel comfortable there, and so I called my insurance and found Dr. Sani's office and immediately told my doctor, which then referred me there. Upon going to Dr. Sani's office, it was definitely a really great experience. He was very personable, very kind, listened to everything that I had to say, and discussed several treatments that we could do instead of surgery. So we decided to go ahead and do the injections, and the next visit that I went ahead and received the injection. At that time, I don't take steroids very well, so it didn't help me. It actually made it worse. And so went to Dr. Sani another time, and then we discussed surgery. But first he wanted to do a test to check how my nerves were in my arm. And then when I went to that, we come to find out that I did have some nerve damage, and that next appointment we discussed surgery. Well, I can say from start to finish, when I got to the hospital and the nurses started to give me the IV, I have horrible veins. I always have. They're either rolling or they crash. I guess they blow when the needle goes in. And so I thought it was awesome that Dr. Sani's anesthesiologist came in and came to the rescue, and he was like, don't worry, I will take care of her. So they took me back, and I just remember them putting the mask on me, and they of course gave me gas to go ahead and open my veins and were able to get me. But I just remember I went out really quickly, and it seems like I was only out for like a minute or two and woke up and I felt like great. I had no pain in my left arm like I was feeling beforehand, no numbness, no tingling. Which something else that I thought was amazing was I had no lower back pain, and so it was instant, and I really thought this was really great that I had this surgery because I had instant relief. The only difference that I did have was the stiffness in the shoulders, which Dr. Sani in the office told me that there will be things like that happen. And I mean, it'll be 2 weeks tomorrow and I'm sitting here talking. The hospital that I stayed at was extremely beautiful. I honestly felt like I was at a resort because my view, there was a golf course and it was very beautiful. The nurses there were all very attentive. They were so great. Of course, Dr. Sani came and paid me a visit and talked to me for a little bit, and then Greg came and talked to me. I actually stayed there an extra day because I had some issues with medication and reactions, so they went ahead and kept me one extra night. But the food was actually surprisingly great, and I never had been to a hospital where they served you food with flowers on your plate, and I just thought it was gorgeous. It was so beautiful. The communication with the staff, Alyssa was one of the main contacts that I spoke to in regard to the surgery, and she was very helpful, and she returned phone calls. If she wasn't able to answer the call right away, I would leave a message and she would respond fairly quickly. One thing that was very different than any doctor's office that I had ever been to, when we scheduled my surgery, Dr. Sani gave me his personal cell, which I thought that was odd, but at the same time amazing. It isn't every day that a doctor would give you his personal cell, and he also gave it to my husband for any need that in case something happened or had questions in regard to medication, or if I was in excruciating pain, or any questions we had, we were able to have contact with him 24/7. During the surgery, actually after the surgery, met with Greg Nelson, came into the hospital, and he right away gave my husband and I his cell. And this recovery process has been the best thing that I have been through, and I've had 5 different surgeries, but this being one of the most major surgeries, having the doctor's information and having their phone number, to text them at all times just to make sure that I'm okay or that I'm taking my medicine right, and them responding fairly quickly. I mean, responding almost right away was been a huge blessing to my husband and I both. Dr. Sani explained the procedures in a very easy to understand way. He had models in his doctor's offices that showed exactly what he was going to be doing. We talked about the recovery time. We talked about when I could go back to work. Any question that I had, he was able to answer that. And he said, when I asked, one of the questions I asked was, hey, I'd really like to go back to work 2 weeks after surgery. And he said, well, everybody's body is different, but you'll just have to see when that time comes. And so far, so good. I really feel like I'm able to do what we talked about and possibly go back to work starting Monday. Dr. Sani truly listened and cared. Every time he came into the office, into the room that I was in, he always listened. He wanted to know how I was feeling, wanted to know what was going on in our lives, and I just really took that personal because I felt like he really, really cares about his patients. I would definitely recommend Spine Center of Texas to any family or friend, my own children if ever need be, which I pray that they wouldn't never need an issue, but I know things happen, and you just have to get things fixed, and I'd rather have somebody go to get the best care possible, and I really believe that with them. It's actually pretty interesting because honestly I feel like the doctor's office is part of our family. Yeah. That's really how they've been so good. Like, I feel like Dr. Sani is another brother. I would rate the Spine Center of Texas, if I could give them a 10, I would. I actually did a review and rate the first doctor's appointment that I had, and I gave them a full 5-star. I just was totally impressed from start to finish with the whole process, and I'm super thankful that I found them.